Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on a very creepy, crawly design, appropriately titled the Spider Silk Necklace, which is inspired by Beetlejuice. And I won't say his name two more times because we all know what's going to happen, right? So I'm going to teach you how to feed hollow mesh using some very cool techniques and ideas to make putting beads through the hollow mesh very easy. I'm going to teach you guys how to do some quick seed bead weaving to make little flag pennants in for our design. And finally, I'm going to show you how to finish off both necklaces because it's a two-piece set in one swift crimping motion that you guys are just going to ooh and ah over. So let me show you what I'm actually talking about here. And while you guys are oohing and ahhing over this design, I'm going to switch over to my table real quick and show you guys what this looks like in real life. Isn't that absolutely stunning? I mean, what about this does not say Beetlejuice, right? Oh, I said it two times. You know what's going to happen if I say it one more time, so I can't say it anymore. I love these little flags. They're so easy to make, and I'm probably going to spend more of this tutorial just going over how to make those because the rest of it really is just simple stringing, and I'll show you guys how to finish up the ends here as well. So why don't we get started with our materials list? I'm going to go ahead and skip over the tools. I've got a video that I posted a link for that you guys can check out in the video description. And while you're there, looking at all of the different links and stuff, please be sure to give this video a like and a thumbs up to let YouTube know that this channel and this video is important and that everyone should know about it. Getting more subscribers is important to the health of the channel, as well as just letting people know that SilverSilk is out there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just dive right into the actual supplies and talk about some SilverSilk, which is first on the list. This is amazing stuff. If you've never crafted with this, you prepare to have your mind blown. This is a mesh that's hollow that you can stuff with beads, leather cord. What else can you put through it? Fabric. I've put fiber through it before. You can put tubing through it. It really just about anything that's under 4.5 millimeters, or even up to 5 in some instances. And in fact, I give you guys a tool whenever you go to purchase this online, which you can purchase at silversilkonline.com. I'm pointing right toward it with my tool. And whenever you purchase hollow mesh, I just go ahead and tip in a tool into your package that you can use, and it's absolutely free with purchase. That it basically stretches out the mesh in case it's too small to fit your beads. And this dowel rod is actually 5 millimeters, and so you can fit up to 5 millimeters within the diameter of the chain pretty easily, making it extremely versatile to use. And just depending on what your filler material is, you can really transform this chain into a completely different color, a different texture. The layering that you can have with it is just phenomenal. And throughout my beading career, I think folks really know me through my work being layered. And I think this is such a great demonstration of a product that can do that. So it comes also in a 3-foot spool, meaning you'll have essentially half of this left over for making another one for your friend if you want to, or a companion bracelet or two if you want to. So I recommend having some of that out to the side. In this case, we'll be making a 16-inch necklace, and so 16 inches of the hollow mesh is pretty perfect for it. Along with that, you'll want to go shopping for some SilverSilk findings. These are custom made and custom plated for me being just a product snob. But I can't endorse something that I'm 100% not behind. And so my findings are top notch. They're unmatched in the industry. They have 5 layers of plating and are tarnish resistant and are just the most polished and gorgeous color that you will ever use for your finishings. They even have the SilverSilk stamp on it. And including this pattern, which I'm very, very proud of. It looks or really replicates the knitting that's on the chain. If you guys want to see up close, pretty neat, isn't it? Um, that was sort of a special like trademark touch to my findings. But this is the cap that we'll be using. It's 6 millimeter inner diameter, which makes it perfect for stuffing the hollow mesh right into once we sort of squish this down, and it'll just fit right into it. And it's got a little hole at the top that's about 2 millimeters. And so if you've got a thicker leather cord that, actually it's probably closer to 1.5 millimeters, because 2 might be a little bit of a stretch for this. So I'd say a reasonable 1.5 millimeters. It looks bigger on camera than it really is in real life. But this is perfect for up to like 18 gauge wire, if you're using craft wire. And so you get a pair of those. This is the dark rhodium color, and I carry 6 different colors that you can pick from. And then I also have a lobster claw and a couple jump rings that are also plated in the same technology as my other findings are. That way it's sort of consistent color across the board. And to me, that's sort of the detail in the finishings, is just making sure everything is consistent and matches, to give it that real attention to detail that we're looking for. And then you'll also need some medium beading wire in trusty Softflex. I'm going to be using black, and this stuff is amazing. I have a lot of different colors in it. I think one of everything at this point, and yeah, the medium size kind of fits most beads, including seed beads, which is what we're going to be using today for part of the stringing. And so I recommend having some of that. In total, you'll need about 36 inches. We can basically cut that in half because part of it will be used for one strand, which is going to be that hollow mesh that I showed you earlier. And then the other half will be used for the pennants that we'll be stringing together. Along with the Softflex wire, you'll also need some crimps. I'm also using the gunmetal color, I believe is what they call it. So that's, this actually, it's oxidized silver, but it matches my dark rhodium findings so perfectly. And whenever everything matches, it's just like it. My mind is just blown. So I recommend having a couple of those out to the side. We can now talk about our fire polish beads. These are 4 millimeter. These are actually a dark navy color, which is kind of an exciting combination when you think about it with the lotus color. And what's cool about this navy color is it's not a warm navy color. It's sort of a cooler tone. And so it's really going to vibe very well off this pink and almost just kind of transform it into an even darker shade. Almost looks like black by the time it's all covered up. And so having that cool color paired with another cool colored metal, and I don't mean cool in the sense of like, hey, that's totally awesome, it's cool. I meant like tone-wise. It's a colder shade than, something that would be of a tavertine finish or something that has yellow pigments in it. So this one seems to have a little bit more of that magenta tone, which then goes into the pink family. I could talk about tonality all day of colors, but I won't nerd out too hard over that. I'll spare you guys some of that talk. Green, of course, for the creepy crawly component that we need in this. Just gives it a nice color break from and a nice complementary tone to the lotus especially, and of course to the black and white color theme for the bee, the name that I can't say 3 times because I've already said it twice, so just in case. All right, I'm looking at my list. We've got delicas. There we go. This is the black. The black is fascinating because it is faceted. And it's a size 11 delica, as well as the white ones, which they're both gloss or a polished finish. And you'll need one of each color. You'll need 1 gram of each color, I should say. And then also you're going to need some black and white round seed beads, which look like this. Okay, so just have those out to the side. You'll need a couple grams of those, by the way, for the stringing portion. And finally, you will need some beading thread. So I recommend Wildfire. I'm just going to reach over and grab my spool here. For the purpose of this video, and to show you guys a clear thread path of what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be using red, but I recommend going with either a white or a black color for your actual project. You can definitely practice with a contrasting color to make it easier to see where your thread is going, but which is what I'm doing essentially for you guys here. But whenever you're working on the actual project, I recommend having something that matches with your palette, and black and white is going to be that. So you can also use 0.0016 inch diameter, or even the 0.004 inch diameter works pretty well. It's a thinner gauge, thinner size than the one that I'm going to be showing you guys with, but works perfectly. And then some needles, which is actually in my tools list. So I'm just going to flash those real quick because I'm going to be using the size 11 tulip needles. Since I mentioned the beading wire, the stringing wire, the bead weaving. Why is this so hard? The bead weaving thread. My goodness. Whenever I use one too many beading materials, mediums, stuff to string beads on, it gets a little confusing. Alrighty, so let's talk about this first necklace, which is going to be the hollow mesh. I'm going to grab some hollow mesh, and I'm going to show you guys the trick to use for stringing beading wire through it. So you got my beading wire correct. Okay, so grab your beading wire, and you can either pre-string your beads, which would be the dark navy blue color. And I went ahead and pre-strung something on the side, so I'm going to show you guys the finished product after I get through showing you how to do this. Or you could pass this through without even the beads first and then string on the beads. It's totally up to you guys. I recommend working off the spool. You can cut all 36 inches or 18 inches in this case because it's going to be half the necklace. But I prefer to work off the spool on my own time. It saves me beading wire in case I end up cutting too much, and I don't like wasting stuff. So anytime I can prevent it from happening, that's what I like to do, as you could see in the picture as well. Alrighty, so I'm going to grab a crimp as well, because look, this is what's going to happen if you go to thread your beading wire through your hollow mesh. It's going to come out in every single knit. You are going to get frustrated, and it's not going to be an easy process. So what I recommend doing is a little tip and trick here, which I'm going to show you on this next step. But we already talked about the length of the necklace. So you would basically, for this step one that I'm showing you here, pre-string 16 inches of beads and then cut hollow mesh to that 16 inch. This is where it gets to the juicy gossip of beading here. I'm going to string my crimp right onto the beading wire, and I'm going to create a loop. The loop is going to be a dull point for allowing the beading wire to comfortably move through the hollow mesh without any problems. As you can see, I can just go all through my hollow mesh, and that loop is not coming out of any of those knits. It's a pretty cool trick. I love doing this whenever I'm using beading wire through my hollow mesh, and it just makes the whole thing string up so much faster. So I'm actually just going to pull that out to the side. Since I showed you guys how to do that, I have something pre-strung here already that I've put together, and I went ahead and also just kind of bunched up the end here. So after you pass the wire through at this point, we can go ahead and bunch up our silver silk right over those beads. I'm going to just pull this down, and I think, in fact, I might have to cut a little bit of my mesh off. Let me just take a quick measure here. Yeah, it looks like I'll need to cut just a little bit off. You can see I've got some extra here. The trick on how to cut this is grab your cutters and then just go around and around, cutting 1 to 2 knits at a time and avoiding cutting your beading wire. Okay, you're gonna get a lot of little wire fuzzies that get in the way, and the idea here is just to sort of shake those off and kind of just sweep them to the side. But again, whenever you lay your necklace down, which is what I recommend how you work, you want to make sure that there are no gaps in your hollow mesh and nothing is sticking out while still being flexible, which it looks like here. And then all you do at the end here is I would recommend going through a knit or two with the end of your beading wire. Kind of pushing it through. I'm going to go through 2 of those knits. And then you can kind of just pinch everything down like that. Okay, so that ensures that it's not going to slip down later on. And then all I'm going to do is stick a little bead stopper right at the end here, and I can go ahead and push this to the side. I'll bring it back out whenever I'm ready to kind of wrap up this design, whenever we're doing our finishing touches. Okay, so I'll push that off to the side. And the next step is to get into our actual bead weaving. So here I went ahead and cut a roughly, I don't know, maybe 18-inch of our Wildfire here. And I went ahead and threaded it onto my tulip needle. And the first thing we're going to do is create a single column peyote. So to do this, you're going to string on 2 whites, actually 1 black and 2 whites. So let me slide this down, and you want to leave about a 5-inch tail. You can either use your bead stopper to kind of hold it in place. And what I should do is actually bring my beads out here so that you guys can actually see it. There's some black delicas and some white delicas. Okay. I'm going to string 1 black and 2 white delicas and just go ahead and push those all the way down so that I have all 3 of them strung. And I'm going to go through that black delica. So just go back up through it. And what you're going to notice is that once you go through it, it's going to stack as such. Okay, the idea here is to pick up a black delica and to go through down through the white. So let's see if I can do this. Ooh. And you're going to notice that these will stack together pretty easily, just like that. And so now I'm just going to alternate my colors. I'm going to go 1 black and 1 white. So we'll do the white, and I'm going to go through the black. And the total number that I want to stack together is to have a total of 8 white beads at the bottom, 8 white delicas. So right now I've got 3. So let's do another black, white, okay, you're gonna see me holding the tail thread pretty aggressively here, and especially because I'm gonna show you guys each step along the way via the camera here, and make sure you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. Okay, there's 4 and 4, and then I'll do a 5th one. Okay, one other black. Another white. So again, we're gonna go for 8 total on that bottom row. So there's 6. And getting ready for my, oops, 7th one. Okay, looks like we've got one more to go. And I'm ready to start my 2nd row, which is going to switch from peyote stitch to brick stitch. Okay, so the idea here will be to, and let's see if I can advance my step forward here. Yep. Okay, so we're going to call it decrease brick stitch. Let's try saying that 9 times. Decreasing brick stitch. I had to say it real slowly. Have I jinxed myself with this video? I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to switch to just my white, and we're going to go through that thread bridge of that first black bead, and we're going to pull it all the way through. Now you're going to notice that this white bead kind of stacks on its side, and what we're going to do is actually go up through that white delicate bead one more time and pull. And what you'll immediately notice is that there is a thread bridge that is from that black bead to the top of the white. And then now I'm ready to sort of stack on my row of other white delicas in the same exact stitch method. So here we go. We're going to pick up one white, go through that thread bridge, and pull. Okay, and then go up through that delica. Ah! I didn't go through my thread bridge. Whoopsie. Okay, let's try that one more time. Going through the thread bridge. Okay, there we go. And make sure that I didn't pass through it again by accident. Sometimes that happens. Okay, that's pretty good hold. And we will continue stitching all the way down until we have no more thread bridges. So really it should be, if we're counting here, 6 delicas. Okay, I want to make sure that I don't pass my needle accidentally through that thread bridge again. But yeah, this is what it should look like up close and personal. Okay, string on a delica bead and then go through that thread bridge and then go through that delica again. And make sure to keep your tension nice and tight. You don't want a loose brick stitch happening. And if you have loose peyote from earlier, you can go back through and kind of pull all the threads at this point. It's not too late. I'd recommend doing that before even starting the brick stitch technique. That way you have it ready to go. Okay, this is the last thread bridge. I'm gonna need a pass through. And there you have it. So I'm ready to start stitching some black seed bead, some black delica beads across for my next row. And it works exactly the same way. You're going to pick up a black delica. You're going to find that little thread bridge between the next 2 delica beads, the next 2 white ones. Go ahead and pass your needle through. It'll want to turn out its side perhaps. This one's laying nice and vertical for me. So I'm going to take advantage of that and just go through that hole. And there you have it. So I'll basically stitch the same way back and forth until I get to a point. And in order to speed things up, I went ahead and stitched all the way to getting my last 2 there finished. And I've just got one more to add, which is that black delica bead. So to kind of finish the pennant, you're going to stitch through that last thread bridge. Okay, again, it's turning on its side, no big deal. We are just going to go right through that bead as such. Okay, and then now I'm just going to work all the way down to where I get to this area here, to be at the top of the pennant. So let's just kind of stitch back through our beads one at a time. And I'm gonna need the help of my tool. Just gonna grab some chain nose pliers here and make sure I can pull this through efficiently. Let me do that on camera. Okay, coming up on our last couple ones here. Okay, here's what it should look like so far. It's nice and clean, and those threads are holding amazingly in place. And I'm gonna go up through that last white Delica bead. And I'm gonna go ahead and just flip this whole thing around. That way it starts to sit and look like it's supposed to whenever it's strung on the necklace. And I believe I can skip to the next step here. So the idea here is I'm gonna flip this around one more time so that it's facing the same as the photo. I'm going to string on a black Delica. And this time I'm going to go down through the next white Delica. So there's everything. There's my black Delica, and I'm going down through the second white Delica. Okay, this will be the little bead that does a big job. It's going to essentially string the beading wire will be strung right through it, and so it definitely needs to be there. So unfortunately, you can't really skip this step unless you don't want the pendants on your necklace, but it is pretty much an easy thing to do. You could see that my thread is exiting that third white Delica according to the path there. When you give it a good push or pull, I guess, that thread disappears into the bead. Okay, now I'll go down the fourth one, the one right next to where the thread is exiting. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that to the rest of these so that I've got 4 Delicas that are aligned at the top. And those will be ready to have beading wire strung right through it. All right. So when I get to the end here, my tail thread and my working thread are going to meet together. And at this point, you can decide if you want to tie these together and apply a little bit of glue if you want to, or just sew it back into your work. Either way is fine. The thing with this particular component is it's not weight dependent, which means that if it were supporting any additional beads or something that is of an earring component, or just has bobbles attached to it, then you'd probably want to really secure these threads. In this case, what I would recommend doing is just giving it a couple of knots and then just sewing a little bit back into the work, which I'll show you guys exactly how to do. The thread on this is a little thicker than I would probably use, so we're going to see how that works. So there's one knot, and there's two. That's probably more secure than I need at this point, and then I'm just going to go ahead and stitch a few stitches here. So a few stitches, however you want to say it. And then just simply trim it off with my thread scissors. I won't make this path too complicated, because normally I would recommend the more complex your path is, the less likely it's going to unravel on you. But for as small as this component is, just sewing it back through a couple beads is probably more than sufficient. So I'm going to grab my thread scissors and just clip off my working thread. And I'll simply do the same to my tail thread here. In fact, I might as well just show you while we're all here. Okay, I'm just going to push my thread through my needle, and I'm going to go through a few of the beads here. Okay, we'll do one more, just for fun. Perfect. So now I'll just trim that off, and my component is ready to be strung on as a pennant. And so the idea here is to make a bunch of these, and we've used appropriate thread here, which would be white thread to make a bunch. And by bunch, I mean 5. You're going to do 5 of these because that will then string into a gorgeous necklace on its own. So let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to clear off my table here and bring this out. You're going to string on a series of black and white beads. And these are the round seed beads that I mentioned earlier in the project. Okay, and then you'll string on a 4mm green check glass. And then here, you'll just slide on a delica and then slide on your pendant and another set of delica, fire polished delica. So that's essentially the pattern for this gorgeous centerpiece here. And I'm just kind of spreading this out so you guys can see what's on the actual stringing. And what you'll have is a beautifully strung necklace that is ready to be paired out with your your hollow mesh. So this thing right here. And I'm going to show you guys how to finish out the ends here once this is all put together. We're essentially going to be taking both strands into the same cord end. So I'm going to remove my bead stoppers, and I'm going to grab my hollow mesh cord end, and I'm going to string both wires through at the same time. Okay, so you can do this on both sides at once if you want to. And what I would also recommend doing is making sure that your hollow mesh fits first, and then you can kind of just push up your second strand so that it kind of just sits right next to the hollow mesh. And I'm going to do that for both sides. Okay, and I would also probably recommend going ahead and using a bead stopper to hold both wires at once on the one end that you've got fixed. All right, so let's do that to this guy here. And I'm just going to give this a good squish, grab my hollow mesh cord end, grab both of my wires, and string it through now. The trick here is just to get everything as straight as possible. There we go. Okay. Why is that the hardest thing? And I'm just going to press this down a little more, get it to where it fits inside of my cord end, and then push up on everything. So again, you want that pendant necklace to kind of just lay right next to the hollow mesh and have both wires exit the top as such. So that when it is all said and done and put together, it'll kind of lay like this. Alrighty, so for the top here, let me get a close-up picture. We're going to string on a crimp tube to both wires at once. And with one of the wires, it doesn't matter which one, I'm going to go back down through the crimp. And this is going to create my little loop. So here's the part where you have to do a lot of adjusting because it's not going to exactly go down easily since there's a lot of stuff that's inside of the crimp. And so the best method that I like to use here is just to, even using my round nose pliers, may grab those. Grabbing the part where the wire needs to be pulled, and then you should have a perfectly round shaped loop. You haven't kinked your wire, which is always great, and you're basically ready to crimp. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one side. I'm going to grab my Xuron crimpers. I'm just going to do a nice little press in that V-shaped divot, turn it on its side, and use that middle notch to then squeeze it in place. And I've got a nice, beautiful folded crimp that I can now trim off all of my wires. And essentially, I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, but I'll just take a little extra time to make sure that my wires are both nice and tight. Okay, and I just lay it on the ground, make sure that there's no gaps in my design, and that everything is kind of still nice and flexible. And when I'm satisfied, I will go ahead and grab my crimp that I have seemed to lose. Let's see. I know I put it here somewhere. Oh, it's still on my beading wire. Goodness me. Let me see if I can grab it real quick for you guys. I do apologize. Give me just a sec here. I realized I had it tucked into my hollow mesh, and whenever I was showing you guys how to string it through, and I wanted to use it specifically for this. Okay, there we go. All right, so let me grab my crimp, and I'm going to trim my wires down too because this is a lot. Alrighty, let's do this. I'm going to grab both wires, go ahead and string on my crimp, take one of the wires, go back through the crimp itself. You can use the help of your pliers if you need to, or kind of just scoot everything up and then try going through. Sometimes it's a little tricky because you're working with multiple things here, but there we go. It'll cooperate eventually. Alrighty. So now just sort of tighten everything down as it was before. That looks pretty good. And everything is still nice and flexible. I can crimp without any regrets. Alrighty, so we'll just go into that second divot, give it a good squeeze, and then go into the middle and squeeze again. Just make sure that it's not going to come out by pulling on the wires, and then whenever you feel ready, you can definitely just trim those off right at the crimp. And now it's time for those finishing touches. So I'm just going to grab my two jump rings. If you need to make this longer, you can definitely just string on some extra jump rings if you want to and extend out your necklace. In this case, I'm going to stick with the 16-inch design and call it good. So there we go. And I'm just going to fast forward through this last step here, which is just adding on the clasp, which we did already. And that's basically it, you guys. Like, that's how you make that necklace. Really, this is the show-stopping piece, and it is just the most exquisite part of the necklace, I think. And then the hollow mesh just adds another form of layering and intricacy to your design. So I hope you enjoyed the project, and I want to give a special shout out to Miss Danielle Wicks for providing an amazing design for me to teach you guys out there. And what a perfect project it is for this time of season, right? Halloween coming up, and we're looking for something spooky and scary. I also want to just let you guys know to be sure to subscribe to the channel if you are enjoying this content, and to give this video a big thumbs up, and to also leave a comment in case you guys have any questions or I don't know, just some compliments. I'll take what I can get these days. But in all seriousness, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you for watching. You can do all of your shopping at silversilkonline.com for that hollow mesh. And you might even check out the pop-up shop, because sometimes I've got beads in there that might match some of the projects that I teach. Some of that stuff is very exclusive and won't always be there. So it's a good time now to go shopping for some of that stuff. But otherwise, I guess I'll just catch you guys at the next tutorial, and keep it creepy and very silky and spidery, especially for, again, Halloween coming up. And I will catch you guys later.